Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Milan, I'm 30 years old, I live in Germany and I study psychology. And I am diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder. A lot of people assume they know what that means, but actually they don't. Let me tell you my story. And before I begin, I invite you to hit the bells, subscribe, and you will get notifications on daily shorts and weekly content. But let's start with something basic. What exactly is a narcissist? What is narcissism? And what is a narcissistic personality disorder? Well, narcissism in the clinical sense is a personality type. It's about control, self-image, and validation. Therefore, a narcissist is someone who builds their whole identity around being admired, superior, or in control. Someone who is entitled, who lacks empathy, who is arrogant, oftentimes displays anger issues, and so on and so on. And when this becomes rigid, long-term, or destructive in relationships, then we talk about a narcissistic personality disorder. This is the official diagnosis. And yes, most of that describes me very well. When we had to label me, I'm something between a grandiose type and the classic neglectful type. But how exactly did I end up that way? Well, there were a lot of things that actually led to that. For instance, I grew up without a father. Until my sister was born, I was basically treated like a little prince. But then things changed when my sister was born, because she was born with a mental disability. So a lot of attention had to be on her. My mother certainly tried her best to give both of us the attention we needed. But one could say she was a bit overwhelmed. I was raised in a very unstable environment. I had most of the time women around me. My mother is a lesbian. A lot of aunts, no father figure. A few of my aunts were actually living with us for a certain period of time. My grandmother does not have a diagnosis, but she displays classic and extremely high traits of a covert narcissist. So in my case, it might also be genetic. She had multiple changing sexuality partners, and I adopted that mentality quite early on. It basically became normal for me. Cheating and having many sexual partners for me felt like just the way life worked. Apart from that, I basically had to fight for every little praise and validation, and I rarely got it. Love was there, but in a very shallow way. And I know my mother really tried. She cuddled us, she told us how much she loved us, she was always there for us. But when it came to recognizing my needs or my achievements, she simply wasn't up to the task. And it got to the point where I started demanding admiration, where I started demanding validation and attention. I became a perfectionist. I started bragging about little achievements, minor achievements. I started devaluing other people just to feel better and stronger and more successful than others. I grew arrogant, entitled, and I shut my emotions down. And I started focusing entirely on achievements, success, career, and power. Things like emotions and empathy became a weakness to me, and they still are to this day. I moved out with 15, and from that point on, I became extremely detached from my family. Even to the point where I now have difficulties to hug my mother when we greet each other. In relationships, even nowadays, I can't promise to be loyal. I can't promise that I won't cheat. I lied and manipulated a lot. I basically treated my partner, like some sort of accessoire, a nice to have, something I own. When they gave me what I needed, I allowed them to stay around. But as soon as it wasn't enough anymore, I discarded them and went to look for someone else. I'm bisexual and currently I'm single, and that won't change, not until I actually can promise that I won't cheat anymore. That was actually a promise I made to myself when I started TikTok, not to engage in any relationships for now. Currently I'm in therapy, I go there once a week, and of course it's still a challenge. I try to adapt my behavior, I try to get to the point where the people around me don't have to suffer anymore. It is not really a goal of mine to be happy, but I think it is it is progress when I actually achieve that the people around me do not suffer that much anymore. I know that I can't be fully healed, And that's not my intention. Learning to live with it and control certain things is far more practical. So yeah, there's still a lot to work on, but I've already come a long way. It was much worse when I was around 20, so 10 years ago. But even today I still lie, I still manipulate, and I still would cheat, and I still use people for my advantage, even though I try not to. And as I mentioned earlier, because I can't promise to be loyal, I will stay single for a while. So, I'm a narcissist. Not a meme, not a cliche, but the real thing. And if you want to understand how I think, hit the subscribe button. This is just the beginning. Thank you for listening.